Hey there, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back. What you see here behind me is the 2025 Yamaha MT-07. And in this video I want to find out how it stacks up against all the previous generations. Because, as some of you may know, I've actually owned every generation of MT-07 before this. So the first gen, the second gen and the third gen. Which is why I'm really interested to find out how this latest fourth generation, which is new for 2025, compares against all the previous ones. So for now I'm going to show you around, tell you about all the upgrades which are new for this year, and then we'll go for a ride and I'll tell you what it's like. Alright, so let me walk you through all the changes on this 2025 model. Well, most obviously and most importantly is this thing over here, the suspension. I feel like this is one of the things the MT-07 community has been asking for over a decade now, is an upside down fork or an inverted fork. So they've finally given it to us. We'll get into how it feels to ride on later in the video. But yeah, nice to see that Yamaha's finally listened and giving us an upside down fork. Second major upgrade are these things up here, which are radial brakes and a radial master cylinder over here. So in case you don't know, generally on more expensive bikes or more sporty bikes you get radial master cylinder and calipers, and basically because of the way they're bolted onto the assembly over here, they are better for fuel or whatever, I don't know. I'm not a racer, but generally radial means better. So yeah, nice to see that again Yamaha's listened to the feedback and upgraded some of the core components. Over here we have a nice TFT dash. You got ride-by-wire, you got this new switchgear which is also on the MT-09. So you have these weird indicators which are on like a rocker switch, which again we will get into as we go on in the riding part of the video. These wheels are new, they are more lightweight, also the spec tells me. We've got a new slip and assist clutch in here. So if you're just banging through the gears on the downshift, you shouldn't get the rear wheel locking up. And then finally we have the acoustic amplifying panel, which is again also something we saw on the new MT-09 generation, which basically means you get some noise pumped in from the airbox to where you're riding, which I think is a really nice addition, because I'm always a fan of making your bike sound better, but then not pissing off all the people around you. So I think this is a really nice way to do it. And then finally, well, this is probably the most striking part, is the new styling, which is also one of the reasons I was really interested in riding this generation, because I think the proportions are a lot better now, because as I mentioned before, I owned all the generations and I think they always look pretty cool, but they had some weird proportions, especially in the third generation. And I think on this new one, the front headlight sits a lot lower, so it's a lot more in line with the rest of the bodywork, and it's just a lot more sleek, and I just think it looks really good. So let me know what you think. I definitely really like the way this thing looks. So now let's hop on, go for a ride, and I'll tell you what it's like. Alright, so let's talk about the first things you notice when you jump on this new 2025 Yamaha MT-07. And I'm glad to say it's actually the suspension. This thing feels, it's interesting. On the one hand it feels a lot more planted. Like you can definitely tell it's a lot less bouncy than the old suspension used to be, which was one of the common criticisms, but also one of my least favorite things about the bike. Was just the way it bounced around corners, and to me it never felt very confidence inspiring. But I'm glad to say that with this upside down suspension, it just feels a lot more poised, a lot more composed. It gives you a lot more confidence. It looks better. But on the other hand, it's really light and flickable. I don't know how they did it, but the old bike always felt like it was set on its bum or on its rear suspension a little bit. Like the front was high, the rear was low, and you could definitely tell the bike was light, but it never felt overly eager to tip in. And on this bike,
even though it's more stable, it also feels a little bit more in its nose. And I have to admit, maybe this is also kind of a placebo effect because of the styling. As I mentioned before, the old one had pretty high headlights, so it stood out a little bit. And this new one, the new headlight is a lot lower, so it also looks a bit more nosy and pointy and more aggressive. So I'm not sure how much of that is placebo, but yeah, it's amazing how much better the suspension feels. And I don't know why it took Yamaha so long to listen to the feedback and actually implement this, because these days you have A2 bikes or even A1 bikes, so 125cc motorcycles, which also have inverted forks. And I guess it's probably a cost-cutting measure. Yamaha didn't innovate with the MT-07 that much over the first 8 years, let's be honest. But yeah, it's just really nice to see that they listened, they implemented it, and it actually works a lot better. Inverted suspension doesn't always mean better, but in this case, it's better. Second thing you immediately notice is the sound. So, of course, everyone puts a different exhaust on an MT-07, so I never considered this quiet stock exhaust to be too big of a problem. But as you can hear, or I hope you'll be able to hear on the microphone, it has a really lovely induction bark. On the old bike it was just dead silent, the stock exhaust, because you had no intake noise and you had no exhaust noise. But it's so weird, I didn't expect it to work this well, I don't know why. Generally when companies say things like, oh yeah, we drilled some holes in the tank and amplified the acoustics, it sounds a bit like marketing gibberish. But yeah, my old MT-07s never sounded like this. So yeah, even though it's quiet to the people around me, it sounds pretty good to me, and it encourages you to play with the throttle and have some fun. So that's really nice. And I think it's a really elegant way to solve all the problems we have with Euro 5 or Euro 6 or whatever we're up to now, where all the noise and emission regulations are so strict. And this way, everyone's happy, you know. The rider gets a nice sound, the people around you are happy because it's relatively quiet. You get to open the throttle a little bit more because of that, because you don't piss all the people around you off. And as you can tell, this is a really bumpy road. So yeah, it's not... to be honest, the suspension is generally quite comfortable, but this road is just especially terrible. You got these like typical Dutch bricks on the ground. And to ride around town, this thing is just as easy as ever. The turning radius is amazing. You can do some really tight U-turns on this. It's so light, so it's not intimidating to ride around town at all. The handlebars are decently wide, although in my opinion they could be just a touch wider. But yeah, just flicking around a bend like this, it's so easy. The throttle response is really smooth as well, so the earlier MT models were known for having quite a snatchy throttle. And this is of course ride-by-wire now, so you also have traction control and ride modes. But they're calibrated to ride-by-wire really well actually, so that's nice that they solved that as well. And yeah, the weather is glorious this week. It's 20 degrees Celsius in March. That's just insane. So all the people around enjoying their drinks outside and just chilling. The birds are chirping, the insects are back. So yeah, it's a good time to be a motorcyclist. Now that was behind the slow truck, I do just want to say that all of the technology that has been added to this bike over the years, I don't like it that much. I mean, I get why Yamaha does it. Of course, you have to add all of the TFT screens and the ride-by-wire and the riding modes and the traction control to put in a marketing brochure and to sell the bikes. But one of the things I always loved about my own MT-07s, so the first 3 generations, was that it was so simple and analog, and it was just a motorcycle. It had fuel injection, it had ABS, otherwise it was just 2 wheels and a handlebar. And I think there's a lot to be said about it. Just the simplicity of being able to work on your own bike, modify it, and yeah, just chucking on a TFT screen and all the ride-by-wire. It just kind of makes it complicated in a way which, yeah, it just prohibits that ease of modifying and maintenance, and just takes away a little bit of the freedom, you know. So I don't know if that's just me. Of course, people, the market always, or let me put it this way. Whoop. The manufacturers always do what the customer wants and the market demands, of course. So I guess there's a lot of people that do want this kind of stuff. But please let me know if you feel the same way as me. Like, just keep the bike simple. And of course you can always go ahead and buy an older generation MT-07, but then it doesn't have the fancy suspension and the brakes. And I know that Yamaha did the MT-07 Pure last generation, so that was like a black version you could get without TFT dash, and it was a little bit cheaper. And that's an amazing concept, because then you get a cheaper bike, it's more simple, but you still get the relevant features. And I don't think Yamaha did that for this newer 4th generation bike. Which I kind of wish they did, because now I'm thinking I have to buy a 3rd generation and then put on the suspension and the brakes, and then I finally have my perfect MT-07 build. But then that's not the most cost efficient build, of course. Alright, so we've been in street mode this entire time. Let's put it into sport mode. Honestly, I don't think there's that much of a difference. Oh yeah, this is the home turf of the MT-07. Nice twisty back road, where you can use the torque. Short shift if you want to, because there's so much of it on tap. Then rev match. Listen to the nice sound. Oh yeah, and that suspension just works so well now. It's made this a lot more of a well-rounded package, instead of just an amazing engine paired with a decent lightweight chassis. But now it's just like good sounds, good. I mean, the engine is still amazing. Let's be honest, the CP2 engine is probably one of the best modern engines ever made. And my friends sometimes joke that I've only ridden CP2 motorcycles because I've had 3 MT-07s and I've had a Tenere, so I'm like halfway there to owning all of the CP2 models. But come on, it's bulletproof, it's amazing sound, you have good torque. This is all the power you need, honestly. You don't need more than 70 horsepower on the street. And this airbox sound, it's kind of addicting. So I just ride around, throttle, just to hear the sound. And once you rev it out, it doesn't feel as harsh as the old bikes. So my version, I never liked revving it out that much. It didn't feel like the engine was that pleasant up top. I mean, it's a minor gripe, honestly. It's not. Most people wouldn't probably agree with me or even know this. But on this bike, maybe because you have a different airbox noise, so it sounds more sporty, so you feel more like revving it out. But yeah, this is just, it feels more flexible. So you don't need more power than this, come on. Oh yeah, next talking point. The brakes. Because we're talking about it's enough power, but the brakes are of course also a major upgrade. And you do notice it, like, oh, you can stand it on its nose so easily. The brakes were never a bad part of the MT-07. The brakes were always perfectly adequate, they're fine, but they were never the sharpest brakes in the Yamaha stable. But this is again a noticeable and significant improvement. And I don't even know if you need this much brake on an MT-07, but I'm not complaining. Oh, there's a fly in my helmet. Oh no, get out. I hope he's gone. But yeah, brakes, the feel is excellent, the power is better. If you've never ridden an MT-07 of any generation, it doesn't matter which one, go on a ride one, because for the money it's just so much fun. So bulletproof. Ooh. Staying with the trend where I'm not a big fan of the electronics. Yeah, this switchgear, honestly, Yamaha, please just stop. They have this new rocker switch for the indicators, and it's just one of those things where a manufacturer feels like they need to reinvent something which was already perfectly usable and standardized, you know. But now Yamaha felt the need to make this weird rocker switch where you do a soft press for 3 blinks and you do a long press for infinite blinks, but then it self cancels or something, and you don't know if they're on or off because the rocker switch always returns to the same position, and the indicator light can be a bit dim during the sunlight, and it's just a disaster. So please, Yamaha, for the next generation, just give us normal turn signal controls again. And that also brings me to just the rest of the switchgear. I just think modern ride-by-wire switchgear is getting way out of hand, way too bulky. And it's an aesthetics thing, sure, but I remember when the RS660 and the 20660 first came out, and they had this like huge chunky ass switchgear on the handlebars, and I was just like, nope, that's oh, that's not what I want. And I know on all the other generations, the older generation MT-07s, the switchgear was so lovely. It was minimal. You had the cool like slidey downy ignition button, and it was just, we didn't need anything more than that. It just worked, it looked cool, it was minimalistic, it was easy to work with if you were going to change the handlebars and stuff. But no, they had to go ahead and change it. Maybe I'm just getting to be a grumpy old man, even though I'm only 26 years old. But then when you ride it on the road like this, when you open the throttle, it's all forgiven, you know. So yeah, typical Dutch thingy. You go onto a nice big road and there's all of the cyclists. Can't blame them though, this is a beautiful road. Well, it just flicks from side to side and you punch it out of the corner with the torque. Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure I've been rambling on for way too long now, but I hope you enjoy my enthusiasm. And it kind of makes me feel justified that I have owned all the generations. Like, I still enjoy this bike. I've done so many kilometers on them. I've probably done maybe 130,000 kilometers between all of them. Never let me down, never failed me. Always enjoyed it. Just lovely sound. It's honestly one of the best modern bikes you can buy, still. And now it's better than ever. So with that, I think I'll end my rant, I'll end this segment. And let's see if we can find some downsides.
Okay, so you remember me wanting to talk about some of the more downsides of this bike. Well, to be honest, I think I've already covered all of them. The only things I actually really don't like is the new switchgear, the TFT dash, but again, that's very personal to me. And that's probably about it. So should you upgrade to this Gen 4 if you already have an MT-07? Well, surprisingly, maybe actually. It depends on how much you value the new suspension and the new brakes. I would say those are definitely the two most outstanding upgrades. I think the brakes on the older model were absolutely fine, but these ones are a step better. And the suspension is actually really worthwhile, surprisingly. So, second question, should you buy this one if you are just getting into any MT-07 now? Well, if you have the cash to spare, I would actually say yes. This thing is, I think, 9,000 or 9,300 euros now here in Holland, which sounds kind of like a lot on paper, but all bikes are getting expensive, new these days. When I bought my Gen 4, it was 1,000 euros cheaper. But yeah, you do have the upgrades now with the electronics, the ride-by-wire, the better brakes, the better suspension. So I definitely see where the money is spent. I think it just leaves me feeling like I wish Yamaha made an SP version, and then this would have been the SP, maybe even with adjustable suspension, and then they would offer a pure version or a base version, so like a normal MT-07, just like what they did with the Gen 3, where you have just a normal LCD dash, and you don't have the fancy switchgear or maybe the ride-by-wire, and just downspec it a little bit, and then if you want you can always add more options later. Yeah, I think that would have been nice to give people at least the choice of having all of the stuff on there instead of just making one model. So yeah, where does that leave me? Would I buy one? My fourth MT-07? Well, I don't know, I really enjoy it. I've enjoyed the changes so much more than I expected. It just feels like a complete package now, whereas in the past, the previous gens, they felt like fantastic engine, lightweight, with an okay chassis. But now the brakes are better, suspension is better. So those things are really worthwhile for me. I don't think I would buy one at the moment because I'm not in the market for a bike like this. Yeah, I think for now, I'm just really glad I rode this thing. It's so much better than I expected, and I wouldn't say it's made me nostalgic, but it has definitely confirmed why I already bought 3 of these things. So I do want to end on one thing. When I look at my YouTube analytics, I see that 95% of the people who watch my video are not subscribed. And as a new channel, a new creator who's doing his absolute best to create the best videos possible, it would help me out a ton if you press subscribe. And I genuinely hope you have a good day. Yeah. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.